Well, hello and welcome back to the TrekCraft server. Yeah, this will be an update on the ongoing process of building out the Enterprise or a Galaxy class style starship. Not sure if it's going to be called the Enterprise or not, albeit it is currently labeled the Enterprise. Not sure if it's going to be Prime Universe or Mirror Universe. Don't know. Don't have any idea. Anyways, just taking a quick flyby here. Going to speed up a little bit. Zip on by, and we're going to go down here to where I have been working. Pulling decks out of the primary saucer here, and I've been dropping them down. I've been reworking decks 8, 9, and 10, and we did a major reconstruct of deck 10 here. In other words, what I did is I went back through, had iPanic come through and take a look at the initial deck, and it was decided that we didn't need some of the corridors that were in it. So the corridors that ran right along here, where this Jeffries tube is now marked out, was removed. And went ahead and pulled it out and pushed these rooms back, moved the Jeffries tube back up against these escape pods here, and give us a lot more room. We also moved this corridor from right here. It was about right here, and we made it in line with deck 9. So deck 9 and deck 10 are now both in parity. So everything you do up on deck 9 can be mirrored down to deck 10, which is nice. I mean, again, you want these outer rings here are some of the most valuable real estate in the game, or excuse me, on the ship. So this is where the bulk of things will be built, and because it has so many windows and whatnot, it's going to be a major part of the ship. Anyways, we buzz on back in here, and everything's color coded. So we have Jeffries tubes, we have inner wall, we have the turbolift and stuff like that. I was looking at something else. Anyways, but so I went through and I did some rework of some of the crew quarters, and it is what it is. I mean, this is a block game, and we're just trying to design something that isn't, designed to be used this way, and it's a lot of fun to play around with this. It's a fun hobby, and the reason I do this is all going to be dead space. In other words, you won't see this, but we don't want air pockets because if the ship, say for example, is up for download, and these dark pockets right here can actually end up holding entities like zombies and things like that if you don't disable all that stuff, and that can become a real problem because they'll just keep populating and filling up these spaces, and then it'll lag out whatever you're doing, and it's very, very annoying. So yeah, when I build out, I always try to do what I can to fill in all these little empty spots that I know are going to be filled in. And I just usually just use black terracotta because it's a good balanced filler block, and I also use black terracotta when I'm doing deck planning. But since we're using these dedicated uh, mod pack, the TrekCraft mod pack, blocks to designate corridors, doors, things like that. I find that I'm not having to use the black terracotta as much to denote things. But yeah, it's kind of a fun little find Waldo thing here if you went around and try to get all these. See, there's just so many of them. And I'll do this here, then I'll go back up in the prime, and I'll go back through the prime as I'm building it out, and I'll try and fill in all the ones that I'm missing. But if I see them down here, eventually I'll get them all, and then I can just re-import this deck back up onto the ship, provided that not too much work has been done. Hopefully, no work has been done on it by then. But I'll double check everything, and I'll go back through and I'll proof it all up again. But it's a lot of fun to try and find these things as they're there, and you just have to see them. Like you probably have already seen two or three that I've already missed, and then I'll catch on the next pass. It is what it is, and you can get it. It's like popping bubbles. It can get addicting. Bubble wrap, pop, pop, pop. Yeah, it can get very addicting. So keep that in mind. But that's one of the build things that I like to do is I like to fill in all the blank spots. A lot of people just, fill it in with like this blue block and then they'll just, but I like to use black terracotta. Anyway, so one of the things Panic wanted to do was add this area here. Now, we wanted initially to make it round, and we probably still could, but we'll end up losing part of that, this whole section, this whole crew quarters right here, which is no big deal, and these parts. So I kind of left it open so that if Panic wanted to on this deck here, and same thing with down here, he can, I left little gaps right there and stuff like that that he can easily modify this and make it round. And same thing over there on the starboard side as well. So I left the crew quarter the way it is because it still can be used as a single crew quarter as opposed to a double occupancy. And then over here, you might lose this one, but you can just double wall this right here and turn this into a system bay room or something like that. Or just like just a storage room or something. So just minor stuff. But right now I just went ahead and made it a diamond shape, so it's kind of like this shape as you come through. And then it's of course 3 decks tall. It doesn't go. It can't go any further because deck 11 actually it won't connect with deck 11 correctly because deck 11 is in a different position. But come through here. This is the massive arboretum. I was given the go-ahead to remove all the primary stuff that was in the arboretum initially because they want to redo it all. So yeah, I went through and I pulled out all the stuff out of the arboretum so they have a basically a clean venue now to work in here. And then Blue Phobe suggested that we attach some crew quarters, like apartments, to the outer face of the arboretum area here. And what I did is I redesigned or redesigned, I redecked the decks up here to include crew quarters, and then same thing down here. And beforehand, this was just a big open spot, and it really, it's a good idea and all that, but it used up so much room that it was going to be hard to process. And what I did is I just shortened this room here down because these big windows are right here, and then you have a open area right here to walk through. And I'm thinking because a recent tour I did with Creeper on his fantastic Enterprise refit, he had for the Arboretum on that build, he has an upper and lower decks completely accessible like this. And this was actually just, it seemed like a good idea at the time, and now I know it's a solid idea because Creeper made it work over on his build, and I know it'll work on this build as well. And I'd like to incorporate as many open corridors and things like that as I can. We've been trying to add like little nooks and things as the build is progressing. We're going through and we're updating the build, and we're trying to add like little nooks in the corridors where you have a couple of chairs you can sit down and relax and things like that. But most of that's been done in the drive hall. The primary hull has so much real estate and stuff like that that when we start doing that, we can process that out as the decks are being built and built down. And you can see here I did already start putting in columns and things like that. I did this to kind of get the feel for you know structural uh, the structural stability of the deck. So all of these are parts of how the deck is structured, and that's my logic and that's my head canon and that's what I'm sticking to. So they'll pass through. In a lot of cases, they'll actually go through several decks, and it is what it is. Now, got to figure out what we're going to put in these rooms. Now, this could be an arboretum. It could be any number of things. I think this is going to be a shield generator room or medium to be determined. So another two-story room here. But we wanted to have a couple of rooms that were two-story and were system specific. And I've got a couple of ideas now for life support and shield generators, boosters, countermass devices, and things like that, systems. And I can tell you that when you're dealing with blocks, my old technique was I would start like, make something like this, and then, complete out the circle, and I would build it up. And it worked very well because we had a very limited block palette. In other words, I'd use white, gray, black, and red, or orange, sometimes blue or green blocks to build it out. And with life support, I always did, when I designed life support systems, I always used green and blue. And mainly green for life support in ship systems, things like that. And then with like shields, they were always blue glass with blue glows to them, blue highlights. And then like with life support or other systems, they were basically white blocks with red stuff. Power denotes power systems, red denotes power. And same thing with like phasers. Instead of using white, I'd use gray and black and red. And that worked out really well because it was a very basic design. And you got the idea from looking at it. Oh yeah, this is definitely a system. Now with all the new integrated, all the new blocks, we're capable of doing a lot more detail. And again, to see the detail, check out what Calvin does, check out what Birchie Boy does, and what Creeper is doing, and you'll be amazed. I mean, just they've stepped the game up so much now that it's possible to really go seriously detailed into the modeling of ship systems, especially if you really want to have your mind blown. Check out the video for Creepers Refit. I think it's part two. It's amazing. There's a at the end, it gives me a tour of the power system of the ship, and yeah, it's pretty darn cool. And I'm hoping those videos probably populated by now on the either on my channel or on the official TrekCraft YouTube channel. I'm not sure which channel will carry them at this point. It's still kind of up in the air, but hopefully by the time this video drops, one of those other videos will have already dropped as well. But we will see, because this one might actually come out before those. This may precede those. Just saying, because this video will be going to my channel directly, not to the official channel. Because yeah, yeah. Oh wait, I see a flaw. Gotta fix this. See? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. Gotta fix these when I see them. Again, Dad, they're all over. These little nook blocks, you can leave them in. They just, my OCD trips whenever I see one, so I'm always trying to fix them and flying through and double checking everything here. And if you do one thing on one side, you always got to go back over and do it on the other side as well. And, um, uh, 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 maybe it was out here. Maybe it was back here. See? I've already lost my spot. I don't know where I'm going, man. Oh, brother. Anyways, I'll figure it out later. No big deal. So let's go ahead and check out what I've been doing. Actually, we got to go this way. I went to the front of the ship. We need to go to the rear of the ship. Again, remodeling all this through here was a lot of fun, and we will drop. Actually, let's do this real quick. Let's go here to the impulse bay and take a look at what's going on with the impulse bay. Now, these were put in by someone, and the initial idea was they were going to change the shape of this bay, and that's why we have these right here. But it's also decided that we want to keep the space here as part of engineering, so we went ahead and just reclaimed that area there, and I just kind of left these lines here, so whoever mocks up engineering will have extra space to work with. And this is a massive deuterium tank. It's actually a very small deuterium tank. It's like a deuterium reserve. So if the event that the primary hull and the secondary hull separate, they have a reserve of deuterium to run the impulse engines at a reduced rate to move away from basically an emergency. Hey, get the heck out of Dodge. Things are about to go bad, and we want no part of that. But if you can see here, these are windows. These windows can't be here. They got to be moved. Now, if the windows are going to be there, we lose this tank. And again, space windows are an absolute PETA. And these windows are so massive. I mean, they're just, they got to go. The windows have got to go, and they have to be redone on the entire ship. I am not a fan of space windows. I mean, marking them out for initially where they're going to go is fine, but I mean, it's a pain because once all the hull work is done, let's go ahead and bounce out here real quick. These ones will be easy to do, but if you look at them, I mean, the shape, it looks like it does on the models, but when you get close to them, they look all janky and just poorly implemented and lazily done, but they have to be a certain size to get the scale and all this other stuff. And I'm going to tell you straight up, I hate the fact that we have to model our interior builds based off of exterior key points like windows. If I were, again, I'll say it and over again, I am not a fan of space windows because they handcuff us and limit us, and we have to be willing to say, you know what, the exterior view of the ship was done for aesthetic value for a science fiction show. Okay, they had absolutely zero intent to ever build out the interior of the ship, so it didn't matter where they put windows. They just put windows wherever it makes it look good. And if you look at the actual Enterprise D and you try to figure out the scaling based off of just the windows and stuff, nothing matches up. I have taken the deck plans for both Sternbach and Whitefire, and I've layered them out, and I've layered in the windows where the windows are on the external, and I've drawn images or markers where they go and where they would overlay the images on the inside of the ship. None of the windows, with the exception of very few, actually line up to a damn thing. So it's purely cosmetic, and in my opinion, they really just, they're not needed in the positions that they're currently in, and they need to be moved. And that'll be up to whoever does a lot of the building what they plan to do about these windows. Because if it was up to me, I would block them all off, and then I would base the windows off of what's going on with the internal plan. And I have tried to keep the internal plan, somewhat lined up with these windows, as you can see. But even this, there's a corridor right there, and this is the problem we ran into with the Halkun Enterprise, the version 1 Enterprise D. Is these windows were in just horrible positions for the internals. I mean, they were over Jeffries tubes, they were over turbolifts, they were over bulkheads. They spanned multiple decks, and they were just hideous, absolutely hideous. And that's what it appears, kind of where these are positioned at are doing the same thing. And the only windows that really matter are these ones on the edge. Deck 9, Deck 10, and then of course the big bay windows down here like these and stuff. Now, for example, we come up here to Deck 11. Let's go and bounce up in here real quick. Um, this might be, yeah, this is Deck 11. Anyways, take a look at this. I mean, seriously, I mean, it's going to take some, you lose so much real estate, but, you can't have them look up because then you just be walking on them like this. And so the only thing you can do is make this whole area a big open crew area, and these windows, the corridor wall would, integrate into the side here, and then this whole area here is going to be open for crew, and we'll have to use carpet and other things, or half slabs and stuff like that, to fill in because this is the hall, and we have to hide the hall and move the wall back here. So this would become the interior wall, and it would do something like this, around the window. And again, because of the way it is, you're not getting, see the jankiness? I mean, yeah, it is what it is. We're working with blocks, and these shapes, we can't properly emulate them with the size of the blocks that we're currently using. So when it comes to Windows, it is an absolute PETA. I mean that firmly. It is an absolute PETA to deal with Windows on a spaceship. So I'll be pulling Deck 11 out and start working on Deck 11 and Deck 12, and of course on down to the remaining decks. I've been working in here a little bit around the phaser strip, because the phaser strip system is also going to be part of the power relay or conduit system, and I have to link the power system into the upper area here, which will be this room right here, and then of course it'll work its way up to main engineering, impulse base, and things like that. And actually, I'm looking for, there it is right here. This right here is a power relay or distributor. It links the impulse base together, and initially it was straight back and then over. Decided to go ahead and move it. This one here actually goes up, and let's go ahead and slow down here, give the game a chance to catch up. It goes up into here, and then it goes up into here to the upper phaser mezzanine. This is the upper phaser. So this is already linked in. It's a bit of a jog, but this is the space we have to use, so I used it. But it'll go back through here and go up, and it'll go along this path here, and then of course it raises again because we're dealing with the hull. The screen right here is the actual physical hull of the ship. If you were to remove the green here, and this will eventually, that's the secondary hull right there. So yeah. Anyways, and then it goes up again into here, and then it'll trunk into here, and then it'll run through the primary hull here, from the primary hull into the secondary hull right here. And these are the systems for the magnetic locks, and these are designed by Calvin, I believe. So a lot of work's been already gone into designing the ship systems, but these are basic how the system work. And I haven't decided yet if these will be siloed. In other words, they'll be covered up like that. I don't know yet. I probably will to some degree do that, and then I'll bring this service deck out around here to this side. I don't know. Right now it's all open because we're not sure what we're going to do in here, so we can expand it as needed. And then this is like a Jeffries tube that goes up into the primary hall and right through there. And this is awesome. This is mainly just for Jeffries tube. This is just a Jeffries tube couch. So nothing else goes in here, just a Jeffries tube. And come back over here, we'll have what we call a magnetic lock, and the power distributor will come off of here and it'll mount to this, and this whole system right here is just a big magnetic coupler, like a big, if you were to take two magnets and clap them together, and then you can, like wireless charging, that's a good example for this. This is like a wireless charger between the two ships that can transfer power, and this is the main power feed for this. And then drop down here, this system here will link to this one here. Again, this will be another one, and then it'll come down through here, and it'll follow this path behind everything here, this big open engineering like corridor, and it's just raised. I mean, right now all this will be raised off of the deck, but right now I'm just pathing it out, and then it'll go down this system here all the way down to the impulse bay, and then from the impulse bay you can see it goes directly over down this chute right here. And let me go ahead and get solid again. I'll show you all this decking stuff right here, right over the top of the warp core. So yeah, it all works. Now, I've been working in the primary, excuse me, the drive hall, and I've been working a lot on the basic layout of this, and this is subject to change. Nothing's firm. Boy, I tell you, when I get deja vu, I've gotten deja vu many times on builds, and I just got a massive dose of deja vu, because I'm pretty sure I did a video where I was talking about this on the original Enterprise version 3, and things got changed because feelings got hurt. But on this build, it's it's pretty cut and dry. A lot of changes can get made as we go, and as long as the basic systems like this stuff is pre-routed, all the other stuff can get altered, and it's no big deal. But it's generally speaking, once these systems are routed, we don't like to move them because it becomes a major headache, and we want to give ample room in case we have to make adjustments. And there's so much space available, why not? Just plan for the future if you can. And those magenta right there, they follow the phaser as it goes around the front of the drive hall, and they're just, it's just there to show, hey, this is a phaser system right here, and eventually all this magenta will be replaced by the actual phaser itself. And I haven't wrapped my mind around how we're going to do that yet, because it is a, as you can see, multi-deck curved phaser array. So where would you have it, powered from? This deck, both decks? I don't know. I'm thinking up here, but it could easily be done down here as well. But yeah, let's go ahead and go back up here real quick, and we'll fly around this is all new through here. This is the battle bridge right there. And all of this right through here is all new. And it's just a couple of turbo lifts. Ideally, I would punch the turbo lift up into the drive hall, from the drive hall up into the primary hall, but there's not a hatch here, so it's not going to happen. And I would have better connections for Jeffries tubes and stuff. So right now it's just going to be this. And again, the reason is this is a phaser, so this actually has to come in from on top, and just basically goes in behind the phaser. Yeah, so that's why there's that ridge right there. That's actually the phaser for the drive hall right there. And yeah, you can't go through the phaser. It doesn't work that way. But running back in here real quick, you can see all this has been kind of mapped out for reasons. Now this right here is where you would come into these escape pods, and these are massive escape pods, so they're pretty big. And I'm thinking these are more along the lines of lifeboats in the event, because if they can't get everybody out of the engineering section before the ship separates, there ain't no hangar. Well, there are two hangars, so I guess they could use shuttles, but they also need these massive lifeboats to get out too. So yeah. Now a lot of the rooms I've designed, you'll note they don't have doors. The reason I don't put doors on these is because we don't know where they're going to go yet, because of the column spacings. Columns are these things that you see every few blocks like this going down the hall, and we usually try to keep consistency So where these are on this deck, they'll be on the deck below it, the deck below that, so on and so forth, and the deck above it as much as possible. So if I were to put a door here, it would break the continuity of it. So we'd put the door right here, something like that. And now we know where to put a door. So again, that'll be up to how these columns are initially placed and how they are initially set into the ship itself. And again, that I don't know what that's going to be yet, so leave it open. And I do have doors. Don't get me wrong, I put doors where some doors are needed and whatnot. So I do occasionally put indoors, and then I denote them with the door block. Anyway, so I opened up this area here and just made it a big open arboretum area. And right now it has an internal wall, but you can see this green right here. Um, it's multi-level. So this blue can be removed and this can be a multi-level, or they can put the green to the blue and then make the corridor around it a little bit bigger. Again, thinking about sizing and stuff. And if push comes to shove and we don't want this, we can fill these in and we still have a double wall around it. So we'd have an exterior corridor wall and an interior wall. Pretty neat, huh? Yeah, that's the idea. Anyway, so I went ahead and reworked this area as well behind the battle bridge, mainly because I wanted a stairwell that would, you know, traverse multiple decks going down, because you want a central stairwell. And as much as I like the spaghettification of putting in stairwells where you go from one to the other and you got to go around a corner to go down into another one, because that reminds me of how a lot of naval ships are laid out. They put stairwells wherever they can get them, so they're not consistent, between decks. Uh, I think that's neat, but in this case here, I want to try and do at least some consistency. And I tried to do that with the primary hull, but again, the planning on that was initially, uh, I wasn't initially involved with that, and to go back through it and revamp a lot of that would be too much. So we're going to leave it as is and just move forward with what we have, and that's what we did. And it works, and just a little bit, off, but you do what you got to do. Anyway, so here's the battle bridge. It's pretty big. I mean, way bigger than you'll see in the show. Again, set pieces, they used the space they had to make the set, and we all know, based off the size of the Enterprise, that battle bridge was way, 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 way too small. Anyway, so if you drop down in here, you have a, bridge head and then an office with another head, and same thing back here on the other side as well. But if you come over here and you come down in here, you have the battle bridge turbolift, which of course takes you back up to the main bridge. And then you have the enter to the turbolift system, which of course takes you back up here and then into the main system and then down decks and whatnot. And yeah, so this is pretty neat. Anyway, so as we come back here, it comes back and then it'll drop down into another set of turbolifts that are back here. And again, there you can see even more turbolifts back there. As the ship moves back, the turbolift system has to migrate with it. So that's why there's, they'll start there and eventually those won't go down, but they can only go down so far, and then these will become primary, and then back there will become primary, and they'll go down into the drive hall, probably right next to main engineering. But yeah, check it out. Fly around in here. I've added stairwells on that side as well. And again, we have the big arboretum and stuff. And just work your way down. You can see as we come through the neck and stuff, we got more space windows. These ones are a little easier to work with because they stair step up. So you can plan a room around these ones pretty easily. But when they're flat and they're like a deck below where you need them, like for example, these windows, if they were down there below this floor, I mean, it kind of limits your ability to work with them and stuff. But come out through here. Now this area I haven't really mapped out yet. I'm still kind of a work in progress on this. I kind of got diverted back to working on the primary hull. And so a lot of this up through here is still very much work in progress. Now, when we get down here, here's one of those funky areas that really drove me nuts. You have these nice windows, and then on the hull, they kind of go down at an angle. And it was just impossible to figure out how to link them together because there's not a lot of room down here to do it with. So what I ended up doing is I put a stairwell here and put the windows right here. And I ended up getting rid of the one that was right here because it was just, you just couldn't get to it. It just was too far forward. And this is hull. So I put a stairwell here, comes along here, and again, open to this side, and then you drop down into here. You're on this side, and of course, to get to that side, you gotta step through this right here, because guess what? I needed to move those forward turbolifts back. Now and again, this is a primary stairwell, so space limitations and whatnot. So I got to overcome this, this here and figure out what I'm going to do. I'm sure I'll rethink this whole process here, and those could easily just, be routed somewhere else, but I don't know yet. I'll have to figure it out. It's one of those fun things to do when you're doing one of these big builds. But from here we transition down. This is deck 19, say deck 16. We transition down into the bottom part of the neck and into the upper part of the lower engineering hull. And it was at this point that I ran into a problem, and I ended up the decks stopped lining up with where they needed to be. In other words, we were missing a deck. And thanks to Panic coming through and spending a lot of time figuring out where my mistake was, and he did. I was missing a deck. I was missing, I think it was deck 18 here, and we respaced everything and got it all correctly lined in. So now all the decks are where they're supposed to be. The impulse deck is deck 22, deck 23, where it needs to be. And then here's the main impulse bay. The windows all line up with the space. And then we have the back here, we have the back trunk lines. And then come down here. I think this is deck 20. With just all laid in and mapped out. Looks really good. Again, a lot of engineering spaces through deck 20 here. And then we drop down, we're into the upper impulse bay. So deck 21, deck 22, and I think part of deck 23. Yep, deck 23 is all impulse bay. Now initially this bay was much larger, but Pan said don't worry about it. Don't use that much space. So it was just slightly redesigned a little bit. It's still the initial shape that it was, but I just pulled, this. I just reclaimed this area here so that I could run this turbo lift side to side. And these can go. If not needed, I have it up here. We can push back and to reclaim this centerpiece right here if needed. That can be reclaimed as needed. But it's neat to have that space for other stuff as well. But this is the drive hall's impulse engines. It hasn't been built yet, but it's here. Kind of neat. You can see, see if I can get to, which key did I hotkey that to? I think it was I. We'll wait for it. There it goes. You can see up there in the map, that's the layout for the deck as we go through here and stuff. Anyways, and we drop down and we're working our way down a little bit more here, and you can see how it's starting to fill in a little bit. And then we have the over here. I'm not sure. I think this is the what do you call these? The airlock, main airlock deck. Yeah, there we go. So Panic's been working on that main airlock deck, and I just had to give him a basic deck plan layout, and then from there he's been reworking the torpedo launcher. He's moved the torpedo launcher. Looks like he's getting ready to redesign the torpedo launcher, and all this area here is getting redesigned. Come up here. This is torpedo storage. These two areas up in here are torpedo storage. Drop down, torpedo storage, and I think we'll probably even have more torpedo storage below. I don't know yet, because that's where all the ship's cooling systems for the torpedo launcher are located at. So I don't know if we'll put torpedoes down there or not, but we probably could towards the back here. Who knows? So all this is being routed in or worked in, and to access the torpedo launcher, you would do it from up here, which is the upper torpedo bay, and then you would come down into the lower torpedo bay. And this, of course, is the airlock, and I think he's designing it to make it look like a a very welcoming open place. It'll have like open things and be like a little reception area, possibly a little lounge, who knows. So it's all being designed, and we come back around through here. It just sort of flows around the following the pattern of the hull to this back section here. And again, this is for the power line to go down to the core. And you're wondering, why is that all orange there? I wonder what's could possibly be there. Well, we'll find out here as we come down. You see, again, it's all covered up in magenta. What's going on here? Well, let's go ahead and pass on through this. This is the main deuterium holding tank for the ship. This is where the fuel is for the impulse engines. This is where it all comes from. And there's a whole bunch of lore and technology involved with this, but for this part, this is the bulk deuterium storage tank. And if you can see, it's pretty big, and it was important initially that we get the shape correct, and I went ahead and designed it based loosely off of I think it was the Sternbach plans, and we decided that we didn't want it was interfering with the look of the area way too much. So the corridor that was right here got pushed back and is now just a service corridor, so it's only 3 wide, that runs along the outer perimeter of the deck. And at this point, I think there were some windows and stuff that there were no, yeah, I'm pretty sure there were a couple of windows through here that needed to be addressed. But we have this forward lounge. That's mainly what this is. And then, of course, you have the center section here, which would be mainly related to the deuterium processing and all that other fun stuff. And then, of course, you have your stairwells going down and then your main deflector and everything else. So yeah, that's pretty much how it's been going so far, so good. And we're slowly getting there. And of course, we have this build, and we have the Calvin Enterprise build, and the Excelsior build, the Enterprise Refit build. We have Birchie working on a couple of builds, including the JJ Enterprise and the Franklin. Uh, I think Maggie's working on the Luminosity B, and everybody else is helping out wherever they can. I'm sure there are a couple other active projects, and HD, Droid, maybe a few others are working on stuff. We have many new members, and they're actively helping where they can. And I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Again, this is the TrekCraft server. Link to join the server in our Discord channel or in the description below. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day, and see you next time.